Long before modern roads split the land and loud cities swallowed silence, there existed a village known as Igbala, resting beside a slow-moving, muddy river. The villagers believed this river was older than memory itself. They said it heard secrets, carried curses, and whispered warnings to those who listened closely. The soil of Igbala was deep red, rich and stubborn. When rain touched it, the scent of wet earth rose like incense, filling the air with something sacred and heavy. Tall Irako trees stood around the village like ancient guards, their roots twisting deep into the land, as if holding the village together. The people of Igbala lived by one truth passed down through generations. What belongs to the gods must never be touched by human hands. They did not argue with this rule. They did not question it. They obeyed it the way one obeys gravity. Every year, after the yam harvest and the pressing of palm oil, the village prepared a grand offering for Alara, the goddess of balance, justice, and consequence. The elders said Alara did not punish without reason, but once angered, she never forgot. The women cooked for days. They pounded yams until their arms ached, turning them smooth and white like moonlight. Thick soups were stirred slowly, heavy with meat and spices. Fish were roasted over open fires and wrapped carefully in leaves. Bowls of honey gleamed under the sun, and fresh palm wine rested in clay jars, waiting. This food was not for people. Children were warned not to even look at it for too long. Hungry men swallowed their saliva and turned away. Everyone knew the stories of those who had once disrespected the offering and paid a price worse than death. Because those people did not die quickly. They suffered. But where rules exist, temptation always follows. And temptation in Igbala had a name. Her name was Namira. Namira was not poor. She owned land, had a strong house, and never slept hungry. Yet satisfaction had never lived inside her. No matter how much she had, she wanted more. She had once been married, but her husband left after years of insults and constant bitterness. She had no children, not because she couldn't bear them, but because no one stayed long enough to try. Namira was known for her sharp tongue, loud laughter, and heavier presence. When she entered a place, conversations paused. People felt unsettled, like a shadow had crossed the sun. But above all, Namira loved food. At weddings, she complained while eating more than anyone else. At funerals, she packed leftovers before prayers ended. At festivals, she pushed forward, claiming the biggest portions. People whispered about her behind her back. She eats as if tomorrow does not matter. One day, her greed will answer her. Namira only laughed. "Is food not meant to be eaten?" she would say. "Will the gods come down and slap my mouth?" That year, the harvest was unusually generous. The rains had come on time. The crops grew thick and strong. Even the oldest elders admitted they had not seen such abundance in decades. Because of this, the offering prepared for Alara was larger than ever before. The food was placed inside a sealed clay hut beside the shrine. Palm leaves covered the entrance, marked with white chalk symbols of warning. That evening, the chief priest announced 3 rules. No one must enter the hut before dawn. No one must touch the offering. Anyone who disobeys will answer to the gods, not the village. Everyone bowed in agreement. Everyone except Namira. As she walked past the shrine that night, the smell reached her. Roasted meat, warm oil, fresh spices. Her steps slowed. Her stomach tightened, not with hunger but with desire. That night, Namira could not sleep. She turned on her mat again and again, her mind filled with images of the food hidden inside the clay hut. Her thoughts whispered lies softly. "Just a little. No one will know. You deserve good things too." Outside, the moon climbed higher. The village slept. But something inside Namira had already awakened. And before the night would end, a sacred rule, untouched for generations, would face its greatest test. The night air was unusually still. Even the insects that usually filled Igbala with their endless songs had fallen quiet, as if the darkness itself was listening. The moon hung low, pale and watchful, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the ground. Namira sat upright on her mat, her eyes wide open. Sleep refused to come. Her stomach was not empty, she had eaten earlier, but inside her chest something burned. A craving deeper than hunger, sharper than need. The image of the sacred food returned again and again, clearer each time. The smooth white yam. The thick soup glistening with oil. The meat cooked slowly with care meant for the gods alone. "What kind of god eats food?" she whispered into the darkness. Her own voice startled her, but she did not stop. Once the thought had formed, it grew bolder. If they are truly gods, do they need human food? And if they don't need it, then why let it waste? Her heart beat faster. She told herself she would only look, only smell it closely. Just one bite, nothing more. The gods would never notice something so small. Slowly, quietly, Namira rose. She wrapped a cloth around her shoulders and stepped outside. The village lay asleep, doors shut, fires cold. No footsteps followed her. No voice called her name. The path to the shrine felt longer than usual. With every step, the air grew heavier, pressing against her skin. A strange chill crawled along her arms, but she shook it off. "Fear is for children," she muttered. The clay hut appeared ahead, silent and waiting. Palm leaves sealed the entrance, the white chalk symbols glowing faintly under the moonlight. For the first time, hesitation touched her heart. Just for a moment. Her hand trembled. She remembered the stories, the warnings, the elders' serious faces. Then the smell reached her again. Warm, rich, inviting. Greed pushed fear aside. Namira pulled the palm leaves apart and slipped inside. The smell rushed out like a living thing. Her breath caught. The food looked even more beautiful than she imagined. Bowls filled to the edge. Meat resting in thick sauce. Palm wine shimmering in the clay jars. Without prayer. Without apology. Without respect. She sat down and ate. She tore pieces of yam with her fingers, dipping them deep into the soup. Oil coated her hands. She drank the palm wine meant for the goddess, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. She ate faster, afraid someone or something might stop her. "This is too good to waste," she said between bites. She did not notice the wind rising outside. She did not notice the chalk symbols fading from the walls. She did not notice the ground trembling, just slightly beneath her feet. When her stomach finally felt tight and heavy, she leaned back and laughed softly. "See," she whispered. Nothing happened. She wiped her hands, rearranged the bowls as best she could, and slipped back into the night. Behind her, the clay hut creaked faintly, like something stretching after a long sleep. At dawn, the chief priest arrived at the shrine. He stopped before the hut and closed his eyes. The air felt wrong. The silence was not peaceful, it was waiting. He stepped inside and saw it immediately. The disturbed bowls, the broken order, the faint smell of human touch lingering where only the gods should have been. He did not shout. He did not call the villagers. He sat down slowly. "The offering has been violated," he said quietly. "The gods have been insulted." That same morning, Namira woke with discomfort. Her stomach felt heavy, not full, not bloated, but dense. She pressed her hand against it and frowned. "Maybe I ate too much," she said to herself. But as the sun climbed higher, the discomfort turned into pain. By evening, her belly had begun to swell. Not softly, not slowly, but tightly, round and firm, stretching forward unnaturally. By the next day, people noticed. Women whispered. Men avoided her gaze. "Is she with child?" someone asked. But the swelling was wrong. Too fast. Too heavy. Namira stopped eating, but her stomach continued to grow. She drank bitter herbs. She prayed quietly. Still, the swelling worsened. At night, she felt movement inside her. Not like a baby. Something slower. Deeper. Fear crept in for the first time. Fear that food could not silence. As Namira lay awake, clutching her stomach, she realized something terrible. Whatever she had taken from the gods had followed her home. By the third morning, Namira could no longer pretend. Her belly had grown so large that standing straight became painful. It was not soft like flesh, not gentle like pregnancy. It was tight, stretched, heavy like something solid had settled inside her. Each breath felt shorter than the one before. Villagers stared openly now. Women paused mid-conversation when she passed. Men stepped aside as if her condition might spread through touch. Whispers followed her everywhere. "That is not a child. No belly grows like that in days." She angered something. Namira heard them all. At night, the movement inside her became clearer. Slow, deliberate, as if something turned and shifted, claiming space that did not belong to it. She pressed both hands against her stomach, shaking. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." But the movement continued. On the fourth evening, an old woman came to her door. Her back was bent like a question mark, her eyes cloudy with age, but her voice cut through the air sharply. "You entered the sacred hut," the woman said. Namira's heart jumped. "I don't know what you mean," she lied weakly. The old woman stepped closer and placed a hand on Namira's swollen belly. Pain exploded through her body. Namira screamed and collapsed to her knees. "The gods are eating back what you took," the old woman said calmly. "You fed yourself with what was not yours. Now your body feeds them." Tears streamed down Namira's face. "Can it stop?" she begged. "Can it be undone?" The old woman pulled her hand away. "That depends," she replied, turning toward the path, "on how much humility you still have." And then she was gone. Fear swallowed Namira whole. By the 7th day, she could no longer hide indoors. The pain was too much. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, and sweat soaked her clothes. The villagers gathered at a distance, watching as she collapsed near the center of the compound. The chief priest arrived, his arms marked with white chalk, ashes dusting his hair. "You broke the sacred rule," he said evenly. "You took what was meant for balance." "I was hungry," Namira cried. "I only ate a little." The priest shook his head slowly. "The gods do not measure greed by quantity. They measure it by intent." He circled her once, studying her swollen body. "There is a debt inside you," he continued, "and it is consuming you." Someone in the crowd whispered, "Can she be saved?" The priest was silent for a long moment. "The gods will decide," he finally said. Fear turned into anger among the villagers. "Her greed will bring disaster on us. The gods may punish the whole village. She should be sent away." A stone landed near Namira's feet. Then another. She was dragged back to her hut and locked inside. No food was brought. No water. No visitors. At night, she heard drums in the distance, ritual drums meant to calm angry spirits. None were for her. Alone in the darkness, Namira stared at the ceiling, clutching her belly as it shifted again, heavier than before. For the first time in her life, she wished she could give everything back. But greed, once fed, never releases its grip easily. The morning came quietly. No thunder split the sky. No screams echoed from the shrine. The world moved on as if nothing had happened. Namira woke to a smell. At first, she thought an animal had died near her hut. The air felt thick, heavy, sweet, and bitter at the same time. She covered her nose with her cloth, breathing through her mouth. But the smell followed her. Her heart began to race. Slowly, she lifted herself and crawled toward the small clay mirror hanging on the wall. Her hands shook so badly she nearly dropped it. She leaned closer. Tiny dark holes had appeared on her skin. Not rashes. Not wounds. Holes. They dotted her cheeks, her neck, her arms, wide, unnatural pores. From some of them, a clear liquid leaked slowly. The smell grew stronger. It was coming from her. "No, no, no," she whispered. She clawed at her skin, but the holes did not close. Instead, more appeared along her stomach, her back, her thighs. Her body had become a leaking container. The swollen belly shifted again, slow and deliberate, as if answering her fear. By midday, flies gathered. At first, just a few. Then dozens. They buzzed against the walls, slipped through cracks, settled on her skin. Namira waved at them weakly. "Go away," she cried. "I'm alive." But her body told a different story. She remembered funerals. Wrapped corpses. The smell that clung to death. Her knees gave way. "If I'm alive," she sobbed, "why do I smell like the dead?" Villagers stopped using the path near her hut. Children were warned not to play close. Even the wind seemed to avoid her door. Namira tried everything. She bathed again and again, scrubbing her skin with herbs, ashes, perfumed leaves. She washed her clothes until her hands bled. Nothing worked. The smell always returned, stronger, heavier. Shame became her second body. At night, she lay awake, listening to the slow movement inside her belly, feeling her humanity slip away piece by piece. She no longer feared death. She feared being seen. One evening, footsteps stopped at her doorway. The chief priest stood there, holding his staff, white chalk marking his chest. The smell did not make him step back. "You are still alive," he said softly. Namira laughed weakly. "I don't feel like it." He studied her for a long moment. "The gods have not finished speaking," he said. Hope, small and trembling, flickered inside her. "Is there a way out?" she whispered. The priest nodded slowly. "There is," he said, "but it will cost you everything you once loved." At dawn, they came for Namira. Not many villagers followed. Most stayed far away, watching from doorways and corners, fear still clinging to their faces. A few elders walked in silence as she was lifted gently and carried toward the shrine of Alara. Namira did not resist. She was too weak. Her body felt hollow now, as if everything loud and greedy inside her had been scraped away. The smell still clung to her, but her eyes were different, quiet, tired, stripped of pride. Inside the shrine, the air was cool and heavy like deep earth. The walls were marked with faded white symbols, older than memory. They laid her in the center of the clay floor. Beside her, the priest placed an empty bowl. No food. No water, he said. No spoken prayers. Only truth. Then he turned and left. The door closed. Darkness swallowed her. The first day was agony. Her throat burned. Her lips cracked. Hunger twisted her stomach, sharper than any pain she had known. The smell of her own body filled the shrine, pressing against her senses until she cried out in despair. The second day brought weakness. Her thoughts slowed. Memories blurred together, feasts, laughter, mocking voices. She dreamed of full bowls and dripping oil, only to wake to emptiness. By the third night, something changed. Namira stopped begging. In the silence, she finally listened to herself. I was never hungry, she whispered into the dark. I was never satisfied. Tears soaked the clay beneath her. I took because I believed everything within reach belonged to me. The shrine remained silent, but the air felt lighter. On the fourth night, the movement in her belly slowed. By the sixth day, the smell began to fade. On the seventh night, Namira could barely breathe. Her body was thin, fragile, exhausted. As the last light of day disappeared, she whispered her final words. I accept whatever comes. At dawn, the shrine door opened. Light poured in. The priest stepped inside and froze. Namira was still breathing. Her belly had returned to its natural shape. The holes in her skin were gone. The smell had vanished. She looked older, thinner, but whole. The gods have released her, the priest said softly. No drums were beaten. No cheers rose. The village watched in silence as Namira was carried out, not in fear this time, but in understanding. She healed slowly. She spoke less, listened more. She no longer rushed forward at gatherings. She took only what was offered. And when food was shared, she was often the last to reach out, not the first. Her story did not fade. It was told by fires at night, by elders to the young, not as a tale of fear, but of learning. Because Namira did not die. She changed. And the village learned that greed does not begin in the stomach, but in the heart. And that redemption is possible, but only when a person accepts responsibility for what they take.